Hello. Awesome. So welcome to the future of 3D printing. I'm Jesse. I'm the maker advocate at Autodesk. Autodesk, for those of you know who we are. Anyway, so we had a really big week. We had a lot of big announcements. I think that really helps with some of the discussions that are about to follow. But I'm super excited today because I'm on stage with some of my favorite people in the whole world. Some of them are still funny. This is mostly about the comedy of 3D printing and less about the technology. But where I thought we'd start is, it's a really interesting time to do this because it's actually the 30th anniversary that the patent was first filed for 3D printing. So it's been around for 30 years, which is incredible to think about the progress we've made in the last 3 years alone. If anybody was here 3 years ago, you can imagine all the wooden boxes sitting around. Yep, with all the, that guy's like, yeah, wooden boxes. Yeah, he's still there. But they were sitting around, and then, we're able to print, but not very well. It's kind of 5 out of 10 prints were good. The material selection was really limited. But today, it's exciting, right? There's all these new printers coming out, lots of different printing methods. The material selection's exploding. What could possibly come next? Well, let's find out. So we're going to go right down the line here. You can kind of introduce yourself, who you are, and just a brief overview of kind of what you think is the next big thing, and we're going to say 10 years. So this is way out. This is not like next year. I don't want you to make any announcements, but in 10 years, where you see all of this going. Let's start with Nat from Shapeways.
I'm Natalia Krasnodebska. I'm the community manager at Shapeways, which is a 3D printing community and marketplace. I really want my jetpack. I want a 3D printed jetpack, and I think in 10 years I'm going to fly into this meeting from Thailand, where I run my business online, and I'm going to fly in and land, and it'll be awesome, and nothing will catch fire. Maybe a tiny bit more realistically, I think what we're going to see is container ships cruising over the oceans that contain fab labs, and they're just going to rock up with the 3D printers. You're going to order your parts, your prints online. It's going to get printed while it's traveling the ocean, land in Australia, where I'm from, and the local postman will pick it up and ship it out to all the residents in that area, and then it'll go to the next port. So that's kind of my thing. And obviously, well, hopefully, replicators. I mean, that's what 3D printing really is, and I'm a diehard fan, so I want a replicator in my home. Earl Grey, hot.
And before you jump in, you're not just giving a spot for MakerBot, right? When you say replicator.
Oh, I mean the Star Trek replicator? Yeah, everybody got it. I mean, come on. I know the audience, sure. Right?
All right. Cool.
Yeah.
Nick?
All right. Oh, so close. My name is Nick Brewer. I am the Director of Trade Shows and Events for MakerBot. And what I think it's going to be really interesting to see companies actually sharing files. So I buy a dishwasher from big box store A, and then I break something in it, and then I can go on to an online catalog, and they'll have the replacement file. So I think it's really going to change where we don't have to produce millions of knobs in China, where I can just download a knob for $1 or something, and then print it out either in my home or Kinko's or wherever that location is, and then they still make money off the creation and the R&D and all that stuff, but actually you have access to it later. And then the onus is on you to fix it, not like have to get it from somewhere else and store it and all the costs associated with that.
That's perfect. So it actually leads perfectly into you, Frankie. It's the manufacturing aspect that you guys have taken has been really interesting. So yeah.
I'm Frankie. I'm the website manager of iMaterialise. We're an online 3D printing service, and my job is to make the website look good and to make sure that I can spread the word all over the world, from Tokyo to London to New York to San Francisco. I'm able to share my passion, talk 3D printing to a lot of people. About the future, I think that I'm on a bit of a philosophical quest this weekend, and I think this is the future. Seeing kids walking around, looking at the presentation of Anouk Wipprecht, talking about robotics and fashion, seeing children in the audience being excited, 9 years old, having a wearable technology thing going on, already at 9 years old. So I think it's going to be really exciting to see what these small young makers will be doing in like the next 10, 20 years. So I think we're up for an exciting future.
Nice. And speaking about youth, I had this great story this morning. So there was a 6-year-old, which is the youngest case scenario I've heard of yet. She did a 1, 2, 3D catch of her brother's face, and then for her bathroom, she took off the knob and did a printout of her brother's face and put it on the knob with a Type A. And then every time you flush now, you're pushing her brother's face. And I was like, that is the best story I've heard in a long time. So yeah, with that, with toilet humor,
nice.
Espen.
So my name is Espen. I'm the CEO of Type A Machines. The technology curve kind of feels a little bit like when I was a student at the moment. I remember waking up face down in a kebab on my kitchen floor as a student in Manchester, in England. And waking up hungry, I was just like, oh, rom, 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 rom. And I think that's kind of like what's happening in the technology space now as well. There's just new technology coming in all the time. So 10 years, who knows, man? You know, like there's a whole bunch of stuff happening. But I think that there's going to be 3 waves of getting there. And the first wave we're seeing right now is just all of the 3D modelers coming online, starting to use the 3D printing technology for really what it's worth. Second wave is the long tail of manufacturing. You know, all of the cottage industry, the makers, the hobbyists, a whole bunch of our customers are starting to do that already. I think that's going to be more and more the future, is just being able to manufacture things locally. And then finally, I think we're going to get the home market really, really going. You know, imagine your Craftsman 3D printer there in the garage, or your Marvel Comics 3D printer in your bedroom. And you know, I think that's kind of the future as I see it. It's kind of 3 waves going from where we're at right now and into the home. And if you've got the printer in the home, then of course there's going to be one in the office and in your local Kinko's Corner store as well.
Great. So that kind of leads to the next question too. Is so let's say like I'm someone getting into this space, right? And I'm looking at it from a business standpoint. I'm obviously probably not going to start the next 3D printing company, right? It's flooded. There's a lot of people in the market, you know. But I want to start a business based around 3D printing. I want to work inside these marketplaces and figure out where it is that I can make, stake my claim inside the 3D printing space. So where do you see this going in the next like 3 to 5 years, or even next year? You know, where you could help someone propel their business to that next launch part.
So I can maybe speak to that. We've got 10 3D printing companies moving into our same location in San Leandro. We've got an old Ford factory that we're taking over there. And really we're trying to create a little bit of an incubator there. And I think that's more and more what the maker spaces, like the tech shop spaces, are doing as well. It's all about connecting the dots, you know, really from a user end point of view, and I think you guys would probably agree with me, there's still a lot to do before people can go from idea to object with just a click of a button. And that's going to require more than one company, and I think everyone's working to really get into that space and build that sort of thing. So if you're an investor or you have an idea and you want to get into 3D printing, then start hanging out with your local rep group or with some of these companies, because there's a lot of cross-communication still going. It's still very much a blue ocean, and I think that there are so many opportunities, like, well, the 118 different 3D startups last year alone that we counted, that's more than 2 a week if you don't count holidays. I'm European, so we have long holidays. So, there's kind of like a real interesting thing going on there, and I think what we're trying to do is just kind of work with that. So we've built an accessible hardware and software platform. We're trying to integrate as many startups as possible, because no way can we all do it by ourselves,
I think there's not really a gap or something, the perfect thing to get started, but I found that you gotta find what you love. That's what Steve Jobs said, and it's still accurate. We see people not looking for what is the killer app or what is missing in the industry. People just think, what is it that I love and I want to be passionate about? And people who actually do that, they turn that into something really nice. You see a lot of those things on Kickstarter. A lot of people with a passion for something, they turn to Kickstarter, and they find people with the same passion, they share the same thing, and they get a company actually. And that's what's so nice about, there is no perfect killer app or something. Just your passion, follow your passion, and make the best out of it. That's my opinion.
Yeah, I want to echo that. I think my thing would be just familiarize yourself with the technology. Like there are so many people, and especially people just stop by the booth and they're like, how can I make money with this? And there's no easy answer to that. If I knew it, I wouldn't be working in that booth. I would be doing it. So familiarize yourself with the technology. Take the time to learn what powder printers can do, what FDM printers can do, what all these different, because it's a tool. Like you are learning how to use the hammer, but you're not going to build a house if I give you a hammer. Like that's not how it works. And if this tool isn't right for your vision or your passion or whatever that thing is, don't use it. Like don't think that, like, yes, we all love 3D printing, but I don't think it's the end-all answer to manufacturing. Like I think CNC, laser cutters, like these things all have very good places in that lineage, in what you're trying to do. So learn as much as you can, buy a couple different machines, figure it out, and then figure out how to apply that to what that thing is. Because if you're trying to open the next 3D printing Kinko's, one technology might be more apt for some uses than others, but if you just go in and you're like, okay, I'm going to buy 30 of this one machine and it'll work for everybody, like, it's not. And if you don't know what you're doing in the first place, that's a very expensive gamble.
So just to kind of carry on that theme, I actually have a question for everyone in the audience. You've all been here at Maker Faire all day and maybe even yesterday. Who has actually tried to make something while they've been here? You want to try something? Yeah, that's what you got to keep doing. Just keep going, making stuff, breaking stuff, make mistakes. The earrings I'm wearing are me trying to make a Mobius strip in 3D modeling, and it's really hard. I had the formula, and I'm like, oh, I'll just type in the math formula, and it'll draw it, and it did. And I'm like, great, all I need to do now is extrude it to make it 3D printable. And if you've ever tried to extrude a continuous surface, you'll know that it's actually impossible. That's why it's called an impossible object. So it went blah, and it exploded, and so I just drew a circle and kept twisting it, and I'm like, oh man, I give up. This didn't work. But the 3 twists actually looked really cool, so I'm like, oh, I'll just print it anyway. And they became these earrings, and I'm making money selling these earrings on my website. So make mistakes, and they may be your greatest success. You don't know that until you try, so just keep trying. And actually, I was asking kids earlier, I was freaking out a bit, because I'm like, oh man, they're going to ask me what's the future of 3D printing. I don't know, but all these kids know, so I asked some kids, what do you think is going to be the future? So they said, okay, they said a replicator. They also said, okay, it's going to be useful stuff. I want useful stuff. I want tools. I want to print my computer chip. I want a car. I want a modular home. I want to print my own video game. And my favorite was, I'm going to print my perfect cat. So the only way we're going to get a perfect cat is if you guys keep breaking things and trying everything out there. So that's what I got.
That was amazing. Thank you. And everyone buy Natalia's earrings. It's good.
Yeah, please.
Cool.
Because then I can go to Thailand as well.
Excellent. So at this point, I really wanted to open it up to you guys because, you know, we're all in the industry and we go to all these shows all the time, so we kind of see a lot of what's about to go on, and I'm really interested in what your questions are about what's coming up next, even if it's what's coming up next year. So does anybody have any questions for this expert panel of hilarious people? Right back there. Just come up.
Metal 3D printers, could you comment on that?
Yeah, so heavy metal is probably my favorite genre of music, so I think we're good there.
I can
metal
say,
3D printers.
I can say a thing. So one of the things that's really interesting is the price of a metal 3D printer is insane, right? Like, that's not something you're going to have at home. It's like $100,000 printer plus. But one of the things one of the companies in our space has been doing, Mind to Matter, is investment costing using 3D printed parts. So you take a $4 print, you wrap it in plaster of Paris, you burn out the PLA, and then you cast, and you end up with metal parts. You can see them over at our booth. They just did a glass cast, which is amazing. It blows my mind. But yeah, in fact, you guys should check that out. It's really cool. So there's a whole bunch of stuff happening there where we're looking at ways of doing things more affordably, not necessarily just using 3D printing. I don't think it's necessarily about the 3D printer. It's about going from idea to object in as few steps and and as easily as possible. And I think Shapeways really gets that as well with what you guys are doing. So yeah, that's my thing.
Does anybody else have any metal?
You guys print in metal, right? Yeah. I mean, metal printing exists. It's awesome. It's really expensive, but it's really cool. I want more.
We don't have a metal 3D printer. I want one. I mean, I want to play with one. But I think that leads to material science. Like, for the longest time, 3D printing was figuring out how to use the small set of materials that we knew how to work. Like ABS, I'm pretty sure they used ABS for a long time because it's known. Like it is known, and like that's the same thing with PLA. Like now we've kind of figured out how to use PLA. So like now it's up to material scientists to really push. Like the machines are in a good spot. It's really figuring out how to push those materials. So whether it be infusing carbon into PLA or metal fibers into whatever, like it's getting those materials to work well with these machines. So I think that's really where that's a better answer for the decade question. Material science, do that. Thank you.
Yeah, we're an online service, so we're already offering all of these metals, different metals. And it's funny to see that the past days, when people see 3D printed titanium, it blows their mind. And if you then say how much it costs, it's quite affordable, then it still blows their mind. Because they know a printer costs about $1 million, and a print costs maybe like $100–150, which is amazing. If you can do that, you can do a one-off. You don't need $1 million investment to do 3D printing titanium stuff. You can just do a one-off, and that's it. And that's great about using services. So.
Yeah, and by the way, don't try investment casting titanium because it will literally blow your mind. So you know, go with that.
That is expert advice. Thank you. Yeah.
Could you guys comment on the future of software and making it more accessible for beginners to design items? Because some of us have printers at home and can click the download button on Thingiverse, but it's harder to get started with the Mobius strip kind of stuff.
Yeah. I'm going to leave this up to you.
All right.
Not really.
I would say learn to code. Code. Yeah. Okay. So scratch that. All right. I got.
Here, I'm going to weigh in a little bit.
I was going to say use one.
Use Autodesk.
I use Tinkercad, but.
Yeah. But no, so that's true, right? And that's something that we're looking at all the time is how do you bridge those gaps? And when you look at how far we've come in 3 years, where we went from it's only engineering software, right, to how do you open that up to the masses? What does that CAD package look like? How do you take something that it took people 2 years in college to learn and break that down so they can do it in their first 5 minutes? You know, what is that scenario like? And that's something we're so dedicated to. And you'll keep noticing our products keep changing and being that way. And look at the new ones that come out. I mean, all the price points are accessible to you. All of our products are free for students, educators, unemployed. You know, they're free to makerspaces. They're free to colleges. We really have invested in the space of education because of that. We want to see our CAD products get better so that you can use them easier. So you'll see it.
I think to add to that, I often tell people to actually start with Tinkercad because it's like playing a video game. And you're like, oh, okay, this is like for kids. I'm not going to be able to do like a Mobius strip. But what I've found is the same shortcuts you learn and the same principles of what it means to design in 3D carry over to every other more advanced software. So you start out Tinkercad and then you sit in front of Rhino and you're like, oh, I actually know what the viewport means. I know that I'm just doing the hand action. I don't actually even know what buttons I'm pressing. But this is like switch and like copy paste. So yeah, just start with the easy ones and move up to the harder ones. And for you, make them easier.
Cool. I think we have time for one more. Yeah, go ahead.
Hi. Can you say something about potential applications of 3D printing in health and wellness?
I will 3D print a new liver as soon as I can. Yeah. I mean, I think there's a lot of bioengineering happening already. We're not doing that. I only just read about it in the news. But when stem cell research and 3D printing can come together, I'm really excited for that.
Yeah. iMaterialise, the company I work for, is part of a larger company called Materialise. and we are active a lot in the medical industry. It's interesting to say what's actually out there at the moment. Stuff like surgical guides, making people better again. People who broke an arm, you can fix it again with the right surgical guide. You can correct the bone. Just like implants, head implants, knee implants, shoulder implants. Recently, there was somebody making an exoskeleton. Somebody who could not walk again, and with an exoskeleton, you can give that person again the feeling of walking. So that's happening, and that's already happening. So that's no future stuff. That's what's happening today. So
yeah, and I'm sure you guys have seen. I mean, on the lower end of the side as well, both the MakerBot and Type A Series 1 has been used a lot for printing robotic hands and replacement limbs and that sort of stuff. There's a whole bunch of really cool, open initiatives around that for particularly development areas where they may not have access to regular resources when it comes to prosthetic limbs and so on. So yeah, I'm pretty hopeful for that field.
And if you haven't checked them out already, the Enable group, who are doing a lot of that stuff, so you look at this wall and kind of go straight back towards the doors that way. I think they've added like 20 more members this weekend so far. That was yesterday, so probably more. But they're working on those prosthetics, and they want to make them not just like these blocky things. Like we help give them starting points, but they've run wild with them, and they're crazy and they're amazing. Like seeing not the kids play with them because oh man, this kid has a robot hand and he's going to school. Like you'd be so popular, right? But it's actually seeing the mothers crying, seeing oh, my kid has some sort of functionality that I never thought he would have, or I didn't think they would have this. And so that's kind of the coolest thing for me personally. And I'm totally banking on this. I'm living my life 3D printing is going to save my life in the future. I'm just, come on, I need a new liver, I need new teeth. I'm in it now. Come on. I don't recommend that for anybody else.
Your wedding cake toppers are going to be 3D.
My wedding cake toppers are going to be, I'm going to get scanned with my fiance. And because I don't want the boring plastic ones, they're cool, whatever, but I want to get scanned and then print it in sugar and then eat it and then have Shapeways print out the one I get to keep.
Just to clarify what just happened there, we went from saving people's lives to Nick's wedding.
Yeah.
So
I got about a month left.
Yeah. Thank you so much for coming out. We only had 30 minutes, and I know it's a lot. There's a lot of questions still to be answered. All of our booths are right over here, kind of in the 3D printing village, and we're all pretty accessible to come talk to. And I know there's more questions out there. So thank you so much, and hopefully we'll see you next year with so much even better news. So thank you again.